Ruby, when were you brought into the show? Because you originated the role of the long-suffering wife on Broadway.
Yes. Well, the play was well on its way towards being produced by the time Lloyd was on board.
Lloyd Richards,
Lloyd Richards,
the director. Yeah.
And I was asked to, and I remember Lloyd calling to ask me would I like to read this new play that they were doing called Raisin in the Sun, and I said yes, you know, but I thought about the title, A Raisin in the Sun. Well, that's a grape that's all dried up, you know, and I wonder, is it still in the sun? I remember thinking about the title, you know.
When you first read the script, what was your reaction to it? Did you know this was a major play, something you hadn't seen before?
And I remember Lloyd calling to say that he needed an answer by, I think, noon the next day, something like that. And so by the next morning, I hadn't read it yet, so I stayed in bed and read it. I was enchanted, I was intrigued, I liked it so much. It made me really sit up and pay attention. Before I finished reading it even, Lloyd called, and I told him how much I liked the play and how thrilled I was. I loved it to beneath it, you know. I told him. I said, I just loved it. Because I just knew that's what he wanted me to do. It didn't even cross my mind that he didn't want me to do beneath.
Beneath is the daughter of the...
Oh, Ruby, I meant to tell you, I want you to do Ruth. And here I was behind the ironing board of life again. I'd done these characters a few times in my early career.
Did you read the play too, Ossie, when she was considering doing it? And
no.
No? No? Because you came in to replace Sidney Poitier.
Yeah, after the play had been established, it was a success. And Sidney's original commitment was fulfilled. He had to go back to Hollywood, I think. And so I was brought in to replace him as Walter Lee Younger. It was a busy time. Many things were happening. And major changes were taking place all over the place politically. You know, the South was alive, and new attitudes and new thoughts were on the horizon, you know. So this happened to be one of those things that came along that fitted in with whatever was happening. So sometime along the way I got on board, but I don't remember specifically.
Yeah. Do you remember when we first went to Phil's house? And do you remember that?
Now
Phil?
that's what I was going to talk about, because
I think you were there that day.
Seemed for a moment to have forgotten that. Long before Lloyd was even involved, I had a reading of the play at my apartment at Central Park West.
Was I
and
there?
you read. Without you being there, we probably would never go any further.
I read Ruth?
You read Ruth then, and that was a reading we did to try to convince Sidney to do the play. And also, nobody believed it would go much further than my living room.
That it should be a Broadway show, that was an unusual development, because nothing like that had been on Broadway before that I remember, where the central characters' lives were not involved with the welfare of somebody white. It was a family, and everything that was important in the world took place within that family. So no, we hadn't seen that before. It mirrored something else about black people in America that was still living with black men in particular, young men. You can be the hero in an interracial play or in any kind of play if your existence makes better the welfare or the life of somebody white. You know, if you are enhancing the life of somebody white. But if you want something for yourself or for other black people,
then you're a threat.
Then you're a threat. And so it's still that way, you know.
You, of course, had an illustrious career at the New York Times and are now head of the New York Times Foundation. But you were the drama reporter.
Well, I started out as the way most reporters started out in those days, in the mid-40s. I was a police reporter, general assignment. I covered the City Hall. And then I was about to go overseas. And Brooks Atkinson, who was then the great drama critic of the Times, called me, and I was at the United Nations. And getting my experience, and he asked me to if I'd like to join the drama department, because I had been writing pieces for the Sunday drama section on a freelance basis. And he said, you could always go overseas, why don't you try this, and I think you'll like it, and maybe you can be a critic someday. You can't view Long Day's Journey as greatness because it is autobiographical. I mean, if you didn't know it was autobiographical,
It's still
it would be a great
tremendously
play.
universal play about a family.
And it
its
tells you
problems.
about, you know, you learn from that play
About yourself.
about yourself. And if you didn't know it was autobiographical, if you never knew anything about his parents, it would still be a great play.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
so honest. That's what makes it so great. And psychiatrists love to analyze it because many have told us that analyzing that play is like having O'Neill on the couch because it is so true psychiatrically and psychologically.
About sons and fathers.
Yes,
and, yeah.
that's right.
Is there an O'Neill play that you think is underappreciated that we should go back to and is deserving of the kind of full-scale revival that The Iceman Cometh had with Kevin Spacey last season, and that A Moon for the Misbegotten is going to get soon, I think, with Cherry
Well,
Jones?
that may be the one play that, but it did have a wonderful, brilliant production.
Sure, with Colleen Dewhurst.
But after the great production of Anna Christie, which I always thought, I think you would agree,
Yes, you never
Barbara,
can tell. I mean,
was
that
kind
seems
of
like a very silly
minor
play.
and we saw that at a preview, and we were gassed. I mean, it was just.
But it
was just so
depends
wonderful.
on, it happened to be that
Yeah.
Neeson and
But I thi-
Richardson were in love at
Yeah.
that moment.
Right, Natasha
that, you know,
Richardson, Liam
the,
Neeson
the
around
heat
it.
on the
Yeah.
But I
stage
think
was
if you had
palpable.
a Neeson and Richardson in Desire Under the Elms, let's say,
Right, yeah.
I think you'd have the same kind of
Yeah, that could be probably
of
revived.
reaction. That's a play that's underrated, I believe. Desire Under the Elms. I think there's a possibility that someone will do a great production.
Desire Under the Elms, the nicest thing about it, I think, is the justice in the Tony Award Committee not giving it 2 or 3 little nominations, but no nominations at all, because it wasn't just bad, it was really unspeakably bad. I call it Desire Under the House. It is the most grotesque, slowpoke, ridiculous, unbelievable. I didn't believe one word that came out of these actors' mouths, including A, Ann, and the.
Rock of Ages, a masterpiece of the American musical theater?
Rock of Ages advances the art of musical theater beyond anything we've seen before.
Why is that?
Well, because it's such fun, actually.
The minor detail.
It's a complete mess, you know, and the director was nominated for a Tony Award.
Over Arthur Lawrence.
Over Arthur Lawrence, 91 years old, great genius. But no, she was selected, and the thing is a complete mess. They serve drinks during the show, you know, which may not be a bad idea these days. It's a complete mess, but it's such fun. They communicate the fun. And this was not my music exactly, but I loved it.
1980s, yeah.
Yeah, I loved it, and I thought they kept it up all the way through. So I was very surprised to like it, but I did like it.
But Mike, you're an expert on the musical theater. Is this an important show?
I plead ignorance about this Rock of Ages. In the 1980s, I was listening to Hello Dolly and Fiddler on the Roof.
Nerd.
So I'll admit it. So I was totally lost in that show. I knew not one song.
You're
in that
kidding. Those
show.
are the songs that everybody danced to in my high school. You didn't know a single song, a hit song from the 1980s?
I was dancing to Gypsy and the Sound of Music. And maybe
Nerd.
Maybe Fiorello. Rock of Ages is sort of a watered-down Mamma Mia, which is going down some. I mean, it really, it cuts everything down to another level, like subterranean practically. And I don't know, it does appeal to a certain demographic, and you can drink during the show, which certainly gets people going. And the cast is fine.
The cast, I'm told, drinks during the show, too.
I don't know.
That could only help.
Jacques, you were born in Paris and Waiting for Godot. Samuel Beckett spent a great deal of time in Paris. Good production. Is it the masterpiece that we all have been told it is?
You know, I have a little theory about this. The French gave up on theater. There's no theater in Paris. They gave up on theater about 1952 when they had a 1-2 punch. Beckett and Ionesco.
Waiting for Godot.
Beckett, Waiting for Godot. Ionesco with
Exit the King.
And now, you know, 60 years later, Americans do things a little bit later than French people do. 6 years later, we have 2 of these shows which were raved about by some of the major critics. Everyone's going to go to them. Everyone's going to hate them. And everyone will decide they're never going to the theater again. The end. No more theater. It's like France.
That's it. We're done.
That's
Thank
it.
you.
That was fun.